In this lesson, we'll take a look at ways that we can use LightBox to access assets very, very quickly. So one of the keys with working fast here in ZBrush is being able to bring up the assets that we need as quickly as possible. And one of the ways we can do that is to use something called LightBox. You can see the button up here on the upper left for LightBox. You can also hit comma on your keyboard to open that up, and it's just an asset browser that we can use here in ZBrush. If I click and drag in between any of these thumbnails, you can see these assets in the project directory located here. I can move those back and forth. If I click and drag outside here on the bottom, I can enlarge those, and then I can hit the comma or just hit this button to open and close that. Now you can see up at the top there are a number of different folders basically here that we can access. So right now we're in the project folder, but we can go into tools and see all of the Z tools that we can quickly add to our scene, as well as brushes, different kinds of brushes, and you can see that these are organized into specific folders. So in past versions, if you had a brush that you liked that came in as a startup brush and you don't see it in the newest version, you might check in the Lightbox and see if maybe it's been placed in here. You can see there are a number of different brushes organized into these different folders that you can access, and you can go in there and you can go up a level at any time. Okay, we also have alphas, material, noise presets, fiber mesh presets, grids that we can use, and then Z documents. You can see we don't have anything in here yet. So in order to load up something from Lightbox, all we have to do is activate Lightbox, and then we can go ahead and just double click on that, and we can bring it in. Go to edit, and there we go. We're ready to start. We want to switch this out. You can go ahead. We'll just double click on that. Now we're working with a different Z tool. Okay. When we're talking about textures and alphas, if we go ahead and look at that. So if we double click on this, it's actually going to add it to a spotlight. So assuming that we have a spotlight activated, so we'll turn on, let's get a texture here, and we can go ahead and add to spotlight. And then if I just double click on this, you can see it adds it to our spotlight, and then we can use it to paint. Okay. So go ahead and turn that off, get back into Lightbox. So double clicking will add it, the texture or the alpha, to your spotlight session or to your spotlight. If you want to actually load it into the texture palette or the alpha palette, then all you have to do is hold down Shift and double click, and you can see that it adds it into there. We go into alphas. We can do the same thing here. So Shift, double click, and you can see it's in there. If we go up now to alpha, it's in there, or if we go up to texture, you can see that we have it available to us. Okay. Now, for some reason you want to see the image in an editor or in a picture viewer, you can go ahead and hold down Alt and double click, and that just brings up, in this case, it brings up our Windows photo viewer to see that image. Okay. Otherwise, mainly going to be a double click for you to load those up. So this can be a great time saver when you're looking for assets. Now right now it's loaded with all of the default textures, brushes, and tools that come with ZBrush, and there's a lot of different options in here for you to work from. They really provide a lot of raw material for you to use, and a lot of example files to use as well if you're not familiar with some sort of a tool. There's often an example in here that you can check out and see kind of how they did it with the Z-Sketch and so forth. And so make sure to check out the assets that come with this. But there may come a time when you want to start to, in your own workflow, start to add your own assets to be able to bring those in very quickly. And you can do that very, very easily. So let me show you where those are going to be stored. So if you load up your project files, or I'm sorry, program files, and then Pixelogic, ZBrush 4, whatever folder you have that saved to, then this is the sort of file structure that you're going to see. And if you want to drop any of your assets so that they load up and are brought in with your Lightbox, then you can drop them in a particular folder. So let's say that I have an alpha that I want to save out. I can put it in the Z alphas folder, and that'll come in Lightbox. Or if I have a Z tool that I want to always be able to start from, then I can go ahead and bring that in and save it to the Z tools folder. So let's go ahead and do that and see how that works. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in this dragon, and this is 05 begin. Okay, so we've got this dragon from one of our creative development courses, and I want to save it so that I can load it up from LightBox very, very quickly. I want to be able to access it quickly. So all I have to do is go to Save As. It opens up our dialog here. Go into Program Files, and let's navigate to our ZBrush folder. And then I want to save it into the Z Tools, and I'll just call this something like Dragon. Okay, so it's again in the Z Tools folder. I'll go ahead and save that out. So it's going to go through that process of saving. Now let's say I want to access that very quickly. I've started a new ZBrush session and I want to come back and start again with my dragon. Okay, so I'll go ahead and access LightBox by hitting comma. We're in Z Tool. Okay, so if we're in another directory, we can go ahead and hit Z Tool, and then we can scroll along. And let's see if we can see our dragon. Oh, it's probably back here. There we go. And you might want to save it with a different Z tool so you get a different thumbnail, but you can see it put it in actually alphabetically, so that's good. We'll go ahead and double click to bring up our dragon, and now we've got our dragon back. So you can populate these libraries with your own texture libraries. You can populate them with your own Z tools. Okay, so let's say that I have, we'll go in here to the tools, and let's actually go up to brushes, and we can actually create a new folder. So let's go ahead and start with a new folder. You can name it whatever you want, and then we can start to drop brushes in here. So let's say that I have some insert brushes that I've created. So I'm going to go and copy and paste these in to our new folder within our ZBrushes folder. Let's say, let's also go into, let's go into Z Textures. And again, I'm going to create a new folder. You don't have to do this part. You could just populate it with and combine all of them together if you wanted to. But just so they stay separate. And I'll go ahead and, maybe I've taken some images and I've created my own texture library. So I'll go ahead and drop those into this folder. Okay, so now when we go in and activate, so we've got our dragon here. So now when we go in to activate LightBox, go into texture, you can see that we have now a new folder in here that I can go ahead and open up, and you can see it contains all of the textures that I might want to add for my particular project. So if you have a particular thing that you're working on, you can create a folder just for that and then have all the textures that you want to associate with that within that folder that you want to reuse over and over again. Okay, same thing with the brush. Okay, you can see that I now have a brushes folder, and I can go ahead and add or access that brush at any time. And I've got subdivision levels in there, so anytime I can come in and access that brush and create that detail that I want to create and reuse it as many times as I want. So you can create your own custom assets, and then you can access those really, really quickly here in LightBox. And so that's where you're going to want to drop those in. And again, you can organize those into folders, and then you just navigate this like a browser window. You can go up a level, and then these are the folders, the overall folders there. Okay, so make sure that if you're using something over and over, you think about putting it into LightBox so that you can access it really, really quickly. All right, now in addition to using LightBox to access our assets, we can also have those assets load up with our starting assets. And so we'll take a look at how we can do that in the next lesson.